So back to innovation and constraints. Sometimes the constraints are very clearly defined, and sometimes they are not as clearly defined. So for instance, in the world of AI today, apart from the European Union that has passed a law recently, in most jurisdictions there aren't very specific laws on what innovators can and can't do. And that's the nature of new technologies, emerging technologies. They are typically way ahead of laws and regulations. Now, regulators are often operating with a broad slate and a mandate in which they may not be limited to a particular technology you are doing, but they can step in if technologies that are rolling out are leading to outcomes which conflict with the environment that the regulator is supposed to oversee. So I remember in the early days of the mobile telephony space, the days when SMS had become popular and all of mobile content was defined, just largely, mostly. There was some media, but most of it was defined by expressions in using SMS, 160 characters, if I remember correctly. And across Africa, there was a bit of turmoil. A lot of money was being made, but there was also a lot of abuse, where between telcos and content providers and application technology platforms, the means of mediating customer consent and making sure that there was business viability, but that there was also non-violation of customer privacy, mediating those rules was still in flux. And so at some point, as a result of a lot of customer complaints, and it wasn't only in Africa, these things were evolving in other parts of the world, regulators began to crack the whip. Now, I remember I was in Nigeria, and this will be maybe around 2011, and engaging with businesses there, and found that there was this draw in the industry to form what at the time was called the Wireless Application Service Providers Association of Nigeria, WASPAN, which was following a similar association in South Africa called WASPA. And so we got together as industry. We flew in the South Africa Association chairman to come to talk to us about how their regulator was managing the ways in which businesses engaged with customers on content. And the idea was this: rather than wait for the regulator to crack the whip because some players are abusing their access to customer engagement and then others are under pressure to compete, as an industry, the idea is you can come together, agree on what are rules, then engage the regulator and proactively align with them so that they are not imposing rules that might be totally draconian on you because things are getting out of hand. So we learned that there, and then I came back to Ghana, called folks in the industry, and we formed also WASPAG, G being for Ghana versus N for Nigeria. And so what we did was we designed an industry code of conduct in the context of rising customer complaints with how people were feeling abused with their devices being hit with unsolicited messages. Sometimes they weren't sure what they'd subscribed for, whether they'd been forced or deceived in turning into subscriptions. But the thing is, you needed industry coherence. So we came together, we drafted a code of conduct, then we went to the regulator and said, Mr. Regulator, we recognize that there are complaints, there's some gray area, there's certain experience by customers that they're being abused. And so we want, as an industry, to put forward these rules, but we want you to consider the rules and endorse them so that you hold us by these rules. And because we'd taken time to learn from other countries and considered the market situation we were in, we actually had the regulator's endorsement of the rules. And I think as technologies are coming out faster, industry has to actually learn. And I've seen that also happen about 5-6 years ago, in 2018, 2019, with the fintech industry, where with different challenges, working with different partners and the regulator, the industry got together, moved forward to go and negotiate what the rules would be. Teenagers do that sometimes. If you're smart, at some point you come and ask your parent, what am I allowed to do? Because then you have a say. I think in all aspects of life, if I go back to a biblical scenario, I think it was King Hezekiah who negotiated with God when it was his time to die. He asked God for a bit more. The thing about constraints, which is the point I'm getting to, the thing about rules, is that there are times when there is room to negotiate your constraints, to determine where the lines of innovation will fall, to create enough room so that you can push the limits. There are times when there may be clear laws and regulations, and yet there's still room to go and find ways to move things, to introduce, to create a new paradigm, to even get regulators to understand that despite what may apply in a regime, this may bring more value. And so I think entrepreneurs, innovators need to learn that the society and the environment we operate in, the market we operate in, sometimes has to give us the permission to push the limits. There are times when you do it in secret, but when you hit the market, you get a slap in the face. But there are times when you go to the market, to your regulators, and negotiate the constraints to give yourself more room to push the limits. So in some cases, innovators will win because they create or they co-create the constraints of their innovation, whereas others may not find how to actually use the rules to create space and to benefit themselves. I think mature innovators, successful innovators, are sensitive to the environment in which their innovations will gain the permission to operate at the limit. They understand who they need to see, how they need to negotiate to create that space.